Hello, my name's Kyle, and I'm madly in love with the girl who's killing me. I mean, really, in the most terrible sense. And now, I have a difficult dilemma. My girlfriend or my life? I met Leia at a usual college club. She came there with her friends. She had some fun, laughed, and danced. And against the other girls, she looked like some kind of unearthly fairy. For a couple of seconds, it seemed to me there was a real unearthly radiance around her. Anyway, I fell in love at first sight. Though for a long time, I was afraid to come up to her and get to know each other. It seemed to me that she was so fragile and heavenly, and that from my glances, she could break like that doll from the music box. But then, I still tried. For some reason, I immediately realized that either I was gathering my courage in a fist, or my fairy tale princess would be taken away by some bad people, and this gave me the courage. And then, I fell in love even more, fascinated by her movements, her small, fragile palms in my hands, and her voice. It was somewhat fantastic. I know, guys should be brutal and not feeling stuff like that, but I just couldn't control myself next to her. No, I would rather break my hands than her. Fortunately, she also felt something for me, because she agreed to my clumsy offers to a date almost at once, and we really became a couple. How much I loved her. Seriously, I was ready to carry her in my arms all the time. For me, our wedding was to happen without a question. But she refused my first two offers. She said it was too early, and for the second time, she added she had to wait at least another 6 months. If by that time we were still together, she would agree for sure. I wasn't hurt because I understood. It was me that fell in love at first sight, but she may need a little more time for serious feelings. So I decided that during this time, I would do everything for Leia to become my wife in 6 months. In the second year, I went to work. Though I could wait a little longer, my parents helped me in my student life and even offered to rent an apartment for me to not live in the campus and bear a crowd of strangers. But it seemed to me very important to make money on housing and a future life by myself. It would make my intentions really serious. Not every student from a good family would agree to change enjoyable student days for hard work for his beloved one. Leia appreciated that, though she laughed and said she believed in my feelings without a job. I saved up money and took any job, so that by the time we decided to come together, she could have whatever she wanted, and not what my pennies would be enough for. And at the same time, I doted on her with lots of gifts. So much so that all her friends envied her, though it wasn't my goal. But we got really close a little later when we decided to switch a real communication. For the first time, I was so worried, so afraid to hurt her and all that jazz that I didn't succeed. And once again, I saw what a wonderful girl I had. She didn't make a hysteria, but simply turned on her PlayStation, and we played Mortal Kombat for another 2 hours until I finally calmed down. And then everything was as cool as possible. So she said I deserve all the 5 stars. It was nice. So step by step, we started to get closer. And in the end, we came to the night together, without any sex. We just had dinner and went to bed. Such a quiet family evening, like a rehearsal before living together. And when I fell asleep, I felt like the happiest person ever. I even dreamed that we would soon sleep next to each other for our whole life. And in the morning, our kids would come running to us and hug us. But waking up was a nightmare. At first, I heard some hellish sounds, so I thought we were attacked by an army of monsters. Then I decided something terrible had happened. Maybe the house was just crumbling or the terrorists blew up the lower floors. I jumped and ran to check it out. But in the hall, the sounds became almost quiet. So I got back to the bedroom. Here, the hellish and crazy howls and rattle got their explanation. My little fragile Leia, who weighed 80 pounds, was snoring. No, not like that. She was snoring like a herd of elephants during the rut. Like those creatures from Inferno. Like a company of conscripts who had sore adenoids. Honestly, at that moment, I almost went crazy. I never thought such a nice creature could make such eerie sounds, and with such a loudness. For the whole night long, I've been listening to this. I couldn't fall asleep. I was afraid to even close my eyes. In the morning, I tried to hint to her about her little problem. But she said I was kidding, and probably I just dreamed about something wrong. Yeah, a hellish sound that shook the walls was just a dream. A horrible dream. But I didn't argue. I know girls are very sensitive to these things. For some reason, I thought she only pretended to be hurt, but she would work on herself. I also thought she couldn't know about that. We don't hear ourselves in a dream, right? But no, The next time I stayed with her, everything was the same. A terrible snore for the whole apartment, a sleepless night, and endless cups of coffee after that, because I had to work anyway. And it's kind of strange to take extra hours of sleep after a night with your girlfriend. Strange, yeah. I tried to talk to her many times, but Leia always reacted aggressively, so I had to stop talking about that. I was very afraid to lose her, and I didn't want this to happen because of such a nonsense. Our relations developed more and more. She started to hint that we should move in together. Well, or just move ahead, for example, to get to know each other's parents. I was for it. I just had no idea how I would work and study next to the time bomb. But I wanted to, and I felt crazy if I thought we would live together soon. So for a start, I decided that she needed to get to know my parents first. There were no problems with mine at all. They lived in the same city as us, so we just met in a small restaurant. And we had a great time chatting about different things and eating. My parents really liked Leia, though they asked why her name was so strange. But she said her parents were fans of Star Wars, not foreigners, so they simply named their daughter after their favorite character. Though I think even if she was a one-legged freak without teeth, I have nothing against one-legged freaks, they would still love her because I loved her. But with her parents, it was more difficult. To be closer, they were really happy to meet their daughter's future husband, but they lived quite far from us, 4 hours away, and neither Leia nor me had a car. So we decided to take a bus to them on the weekend, spend the night there, and come back. I didn't expect a dirty trick. As it turned out, in vain. No, her parents themselves were very friendly and nice people. It was clear they truly loved their daughter and took care of her. And they also liked me. We first looked at the house, then had dinner, and went to bed early on purpose because her dad promised to take us hunting in the morning. I'm not a fan of hunting, but it would be interesting to see what it was like, so I agreed. Yeah, the snore. A creepy, unreal, and deafening snore. And this time, it was heard not only from the mouth of my girl, but from everywhere in the house. The noise was simply like that of the horror films. I didn't even know that a human throat could make such sounds, because there was everything. A rattle, howling, and heartbreaking screams. Even a growl broke through. Actually, if I hadn't heard something like this from Leia, I would have doused the whole house with holy water and burned it down. Because I heard something like this only in The Exorcist from demon victims, when evil was cast out of them. Can you imagine what I looked like in the morning? I rushed around the house, trying to hide from the terrible sounds, but they could be heard even on the terrace. Well, and what got out of bed instead of me was like a chewed washcloth, not a human. Of course, we didn't go hunting. I excused myself, saying I suddenly fell ill. I must have caught a cold on the bus and I had a sleepless night, so let's go home. I hope they weren't hurt then. And then, I had to choose between relationships and health. Leia insisted on living together. She said before our wedding she wanted to watch us in everyday life. For example, if we would quarrel over some nonsense. I had to agree, and my personal nightmare began. I couldn't sleep at all. I couldn't do anything during the day. I was simply unable to do anything because of chronic fatigue. I started having problems with my nerves and health. My body refused to do something under such conditions. I even tried to fall asleep by using heavy sedatives. I hoped I would simply turn off and hear nothing, but nothing worked. I became angry and nervous, but I was afraid Leia would leave me and I would lose her, though she also noticed something was wrong with me. She thought it was because of my stress at work, though I said honestly she needed to see a doctor. But she was hurt, and I came up to her with gifts and apologies. I loved her too much. Eventually, I ended up in the hospital. I was hospitalized when I couldn't cope with the machine at work. I washed the floor on a special big machine, and I fell right under the blades. Good that it pressed me not so much and got me on the floor, and I didn't get into the blades. I was even given a bonus as a victim in the workplace, but I didn't tell them that it was only my fault. I just spent the night without sleep for all those months. Now, I'm at the crossroads. On the one hand, I still love Leia and can't imagine my life without her. And on the other hand, with her, I'm afraid I will have no life at all. I'm lucky now, but luck may not work next time, and I don't know what to do. So guys, write in the comments what you would advise me to do. Your opinion is really important to me. If you had something similar, write it here too. And to paraphrase The Witcher, I'd rather not choose between love and health, but I should.